first one is called Desire. Initially, I thought I was going to do an alphabetical, an ABC. I thought I was going to have a whole alphabet, and so there's still a vestige of that. So this is the D poem. I think I'll read D, E, F, something like that. But then it broke down, as all these things do, or sometimes do. So this is Desire demands its own attachment. Daunted by disastrous consequences? Don't be. Everyone, even you, delights in devilscape. Do you rue more than revel? Disappointed more than detached? Even the dog detours from the stick. Reign in desire, reign in death's ire. A porous heart of tears, decked out as diamonds, for us. If someone's declining from their window, as you below go by. If all they fling is damage, depart. Deafened to desire, that demon dire. I should say this is a self-help book in a way, which is, it's kind of bizarre. I don't know. You can take the advice if you want. All right. So this is the E poem. Briefly, these were based on Epictetus. I mean, obviously, I used a contemporary translation. Briefly accept events as they occur. Eventually, you have to rail, don't you? Every time it doesn't go your way. Erase the world, ever the charmer, the world will win. Even the flayer knows when to accede defeat. Eventually, who hasn't awakened to the ecliptic shock of everything failing? Where you err is thinking you control what befalls or eludes you, and when. Early storms are the rule. Until this year, even the vulture picking at your liver doesn't always wait till it regenerates. All right, this is sort of my favorite one. It's probably the least like any of the others in here. This is the F one. Maybe this is the F one. Make full use of what happens to you. In the face of broken, build a tower of breath. In the eye of deceit, carve a hive of light. In the rumble of regret, fashion a new net. In the oracular gut, leaven what's left. In the fall of grief, harvest winter wheat. In the infested wound, bring leeches to swoon. In the empty bed, rive a pelvic bone. In the stung heart, harrow a new song. In Fortuna's backswing, let fallow fill wings. All right, I've never used this word in a poem before, and somehow it just ended up being in here. This is a G1. And this word gemütlich, I love it. It's like I'm German. For me to put German in a poem is ridiculous, but it felt like the right thing to do, which is things like warm and friendly. So, I mean, I had to re-look it up because I forgot what it meant. Okay. Everything happens for a good reason. Good. Comedy may equal tragedy plus time, as good reasons may be gall gilded over rust. Great that he gained you. Grand he's gone gloomy, gorged on hemlock. Colossal, you've got no gig, no guy, no granita. Greet each gravity with gratitude like a cavity. If every dark cloud has a gelato swirl lining, why are you groveling there, all gemütlich, shivering under someone's malicious downpour, still goo-gooing up? All right, I'll read one more of these. I think they're done. All right, this one is kind of jazzier. Refrain from defending your own reputation. And I did take the advice from Epictetus. I thought it was really great advice. Anyway, refrain from defending your own reputation. Who rapped on your rep? Rapped ones know that's a snow job you can do better, bluster. Defend yourself? Diss back? Fend off the cape swirl of this bull's approaching horns and let him glance you with his charge. As you, scratched behind your flickering fan, gasp, "Oh, I guess he hasn't heard the worst about me yet." Okay, so now I change hats, and I'm going to introduce Harryette Mullen and get out of the way. I think she's probably, well, she's known to all of you, but I think, is she best known for her really Oulipian masterpiece, Sleeping with the Dictionary? As I assume many of you know, Oulipo is comprised mostly of French white men. And even the dead ones get to remain members, right? You know, there's like one, I think there's one, or at least used to be only one American member. Like, you're not a member, I'm not a member, even though we love Oulipo, right? Harry Matthews is a member, he's the American member. You know, and it stands for, you know, Ouvrage de la littérature, now I'm doing French, Ouvrage de la littérature potentielle. Right? You know, the workshop, which actually means the sewing shop, it's interesting, you know, it could be the sewing factory, the sewing shop, for potential literature, right? And it's all this procedural work. Harriette Mullen herself, and there's this book-length conversation with Barbara Henning. It's all around Sleeping with the Dictionary. She characterizes it as this group's systematic cataloging and exuberant invention of textual operations and literary techniques. So you imagine playing games, linguistic games with texts, such as replacing every noun with the 7th noun found in the dictionary. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that, the n+7, which is probably the most well-known European procedure. I love that word, Oulipo. All right. And there are lots of other kinds of replacements that one can do. For instance, you can take a Shakespeare sonnet, famous 130, My Mistress' Eyes Are Nothing Like the Sun. And those sonnets are known as the Dark Lady sonnets, and now in the hands of Mullen, they become the Dim Lady, right? And you have the poems opening, My Honey Bunch's Peepers Are Nothing Like Neon. So now the challenge, you know, it's like the gauntlet is thrown down by Shakespeare, so now the challenge is to take this conventional ideal of the beauty, of the beautiful one, and now to give it a spin, thinking about race, thinking about class, thinking about, now it seems rather quaint, late 20th century technology, right? The neon now seems kind of old in a funny way. It's interesting how that has happened, because the book came out in 2002. Mullen's other chief influence, she has many. She, in Recyclopedia, for instance, and she's somebody who recycles bits of language, among other things. But her chief, probably the chief muse there, is Gertrude Stein, and particularly in the poems, the prose poems from Tender Buttons. And even Dim Lady, as many of you know, is written as a prose poem. But I think much of what Mullen does as an African-American woman seems to be that she interrogates language and its gendered and racial assumptions, and these often get codified into the dictionary, so I think that's sometimes why there's this interest in the word. But she's never merely interested in language play. As she says herself, this poem, about one of the poems in the dictionary collection, despite random, arbitrary, even nonsensical elements, is saturated with the intentionality of the writer. I'm aware that the poem presents difficulties for any reader because of its specific and topical references to subculture and mass culture. This almost reads like a poem. Its shredded, embedded, and buried allusions, its drift between meaning and sound, as well as its abrupt shifts in tone or emotional affect. I'm sort of letting Mullen speak for herself because I think she best expresses her own approach to her writing. As she says, I'm interested in poetic utterances that play with the typically negative signification of blackness and darkness. I'm also conscious of the power of language to include and exclude at the same time. Often I'm trying to find different ways of writing, reading, and interpreting poetry with the idea of creating more radiant or resonant poems and reaching diverse audiences. So now if we turn, in terms of this language play, to the poem she's going to read, and maybe she will read others, is this Broken Glish 5 prose poems, which was printed to celebrate her work as judge this year. Again, she uses the prose poem to bring the difficult news of language through language to her readers. And what is Glish? What is Glish? A reader might ask. Well, there are slang meanings you can look up. It can mean cool or awesome. There's even a computer language that's called Glish. But of course, it's also English, the broken Glish, you know. And so embedded in the broken And so from this title, you have this enactment of the brokenness and perhaps the wish for a playful repair. And here, I think seemingly there's almost a planetary wish for repair, about which the poems speak. And I'm going to say no more because I really look forward to hearing them. And please join me in welcoming Harryette Mullen.